Hello everybody. Today's video, rebuilding this slightly buggered old parcel shelf into one of the new repop ones. These are made of, it looks to be like an ABS type material. My own preference will be to use them because even a good used one of these, they're just a ticking time bomb. So these should outlast these tenfold. Once you've done them, you'll never have to do it again. I've slightly cheated with this one because I wasn't really expecting to do the video, but we're going to disassemble the carpets, the support strings, the pivot bar, and I've already done the front seal, but I'll talk you through how I've done it. So before we get too carried away, how I do this is how I do it. So if you're trying to replicate it, just please make sure you think of safety first. So make sure you wear the correct PPE, because we are using tools. You've got a lot of potential to hurt yourselves with screwdrivers, hammers, so on and so forth. So if you do hurt yourself, I'm not taking liability. This is just a quick how-to. So first of all, the mats. You've got 4 mats in place. These are held on with an adhesive. It's just a spray-on adhesive. So one of 2 ways that you can remove these. You can use a steamer to reactivate the glue to peel them back. I generally just peel them off because it's not that strong of an adhesive. So I'll try and get in one corner, pick it up a little bit, and then slowly massage it back until you get a full edge back. You can see the adhesive there on the cloth and on the parcel shelf itself. So just slowly keep peeling it back. So we'll speed things up a little bit and remove these 3. So they're gone. With the bottom one, the only area you have to be careful of is around here. So because it is quite a narrow little point, you've got a high potential to actually tear the carpet there and there. So just be a little bit delicate once you get to that point and peel it back. Just take a little bit of time and get to the other side, and then try and pull it back evenly, and then carry that process on. As I say, just take your time because you have a potential to rip it. After that, you've got the parcel shelf strings themselves. So there's 2 parts of these. You've got the top clip and the bottom clip. There's 2 little prongs that hold these together. So just to give you an idea before you get carried away, I'll take this one off. So the bottom side of it, this is what holds it in place. On the top side, you've got the 2 little prongs there. Let me just try and zoom in. And then you've got 2 little guides as well. So they just center it as it goes on and clips. So to remove these, let me just put this up. Use a little flathead screwdriver to get a little bit of leverage under one of the corners. Now when you're doing this, just make sure your other hand's clear. Make sure you support the parcel shelf, and then use one hand to just gently get under at an angle. So what I mean by earlier on, you've got potential to damage this edge, so you're not too worried about this because it's not shown, but just get in, slide it in. Once you've got that far, just give it a little twist, and then that separates them without damaging the lugs. So once that's separated, you can see the top part. Now to remove this, you literally squeeze the 2 ends of the thread together. You have to forgive me, I'm doing this one-handed. Together, and then just let it slowly slide off. Boom. The other side then just pulls out. So set them to the side because we will need to reuse these. So now both the parcel shelf strings are removed, I'm going to remove the pivot bar. So you've got the bar and the 2 pivot points either side. Now to remove these pivot points do pull out. Now sometimes they'll pull out with these, other times they're a little bit of a faff because they've been in. So what I use is a little bit of wood and a hammer. So with the hammer, just on the edge towards the little plastic lug, and then tap this end forward. So as you can see, that slowly starts to release it. It should be at the point now where it will just pull out by hand. Repeat that process on the other side to here. Right, so now that both the pivot points have been removed on either side, we're going to repeat the process, but this time we're going to drive the pivot bar that way to let it slide out. So I have gotten these parcel shelves in broken in bits because people have tried to remove these to fix them for whatever reasons, and they try to pull them down out. You can't do that because there's a little bit of a rib on the form on the inside, so they have to slide from side to side. Sometimes they will move freely on their own. Sometimes you just have to get the hammer and a little block of wood and drive them that way. So let me see if I can get this on video. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm just going to use the edge of the hammer. So let's see. So keep repeating that process till you get to the edge, and then use the block of wood from this point out to rest along here, so we're not hitting the parcel shelf, we're just hitting the bar. So put your block of wood in, resting on the edge as a guide, so that way you're not firing, and then chisel until the bar becomes freely. So this is the little rib that stops it bouncing up and down to keep it in a fixed point. So as you get to this point, you will need to adjust your wood to the lower side to help it slide across. So usually when you get about halfway there, you can just pull it off with your hand just a little bit. Like so. So next up is the seal itself. As I said earlier, I have removed this one already. So this is held on with 13 rivets on the underside of the seal that go through the seal. The seal itself has got a metal reinforcement inside it. Goes through the parcel shelf into a reinforcement bar on the underside. So the reinforcement bar I've already removed. This is it here. So the rivets themselves squeeze these two panels together. How I would recommend to do this: put it down, clamp it securely, and then you will have to peel the seal back itself to get access to the little rivet heads. So they're generally a 3.2 or 4mm rivet that's put on it, depending if it's been done before. Drill out the 13 rivet heads, and then these will freely fall off. Now what will happen is the back rivet bar, if you haven't drilled all the way through, the rivets will be held on in the back just where they've squeezed. So use a pair of pliers to just individually pull the 13 of those lugs out, and then that's everything disassembled, ready for part 2 to rebuild into this. So next part of the video, this is part 2, rebuilding the parcel shelf. So this is the new unit. If you look here, compared to the old unit, there's little metal clasps to hold the pivot bar in place, compared to the old one, which is a form. So to start, we're going to reverse the process of the teardown. I'm going to start with the pivot bar. So in between the videos, I have sanded these down and give them a fresh coat of paint. Just makes it look new, and it's well worth the effort and the finished result. So to do this, the little slot that's in the pivot bar, align it up here and then push till it goes all the way across against the little metal clasp. So let me see if I can do this one-handed. There we go. So just keep sliding all the way across. You will get a little bit of resistance. Sometimes you will have to use a block of wood and a hammer just to try and get it to slide across. So you'll have to forgive me, it is a little bit difficult trying to video this and push the bar on at the same time. So let me just see if I can give it a bit of momentum. There we go. So same, it will try to drop down, pull it up, and then carry on sliding it forward. So just make sure it lines up with the clasp. I will cheat a little bit, I'll use a hammer just because it's difficult doing this with one hand. Little claps. So, a little bit of a boo-boo. The clasp has turned, so not the end of the world. I'll push the pivot bar back using the previous process and realign the clasp. So I've pulled the pivot bar back, I just need to realign the clasp up. So to do this, little hammer underneath, onto the tab, and then just give it a little pop down, pushes it back in the right place. So don't worry if you do that, there is a fix. And then just slide the bar back across until we get past that point. So once you get the pivot bar across, don't worry about the centralization of these 2 points at the moment, because we'll go over that on the next step. So next you'll need your 2 little pivot points. You'll see there's a little washer here, so that slides over the bar. So to fit these, obviously you've got the 2 little recesses. They line between the pivot bar, but where the actual parcel shelf goes down in, you have to make sure this is up so that it can freely slide in. And then the washer itself has to go over the pivot bar. So make sure it's pushed all the way in. Same on the other side. Your right orientation going in, into the pivot bar, all the way in, and then same, align your washer to here. So as you can see, it's a little bit short here compared to the other side. What we'll do is give it a little tap, like so, brings it over, and then that allows you to push this one even further in. So align the washer, and then a little bit of gentle persuasion with the edge of the hammer. So once you've got them in, see the point here, the distance, just try and get a little balance by tapping either side with the edge of the hammer, just so you don't damage the pivot point. Just a light tap until you get a balance that you're happy with. So I'm quite happy with how even those 2 points are. Next thing we'll have to do is obviously the seal itself. So remember earlier there was 13 holes across here for the rivet bar and the seal. We're going to align the center hole. So to do that we need to get a reference. So we're going to get a bit of masking tape, place it here, here and here. The reasons for that is we're going to get our center point, measuring from here to here, here to here, and mark the center, and then we'll use a straight edge coming all the way across to mark this point so we can get our hole here. So got 3 pieces of masking tape all ready to measure. So as I said, use a tape measure from this point to this point, this point to this point, and then mark your center. So I would recommend using a pen or a pencil for this. Try not to use a permanent marker, because you have got the potential that the masking tape will allow it to weep through, and then the acetone of that will actually stain the surface. So I'll do this now. So tape measure in place, I've marked my center, same on this. So 2 center points marked. Now to use a straight edge to bring your center point to here, because of the compound radius here it'll be hard to get a center. So a little straight edge, I'm going to use this because it's all I've got handy at the moment to mark this point. So let me just move the seal out of the way. There to there, and that'll give you a reference. So if you use something a little bit more flexible than what I'm using, it will be easier, but this is the way I've done it. So let me just mark the point. So center point now marked, ready for the next step. So next step, carry your masking tape all over the edge, and then we'll carry this line all the way down for the next step. So lines carried all the way down. We're going to get the seal. If you look at the seal, there's a single hole and then there's slotted holes. We're going to rest it on the edge here. Try and line up these 2 points So the single hole to your line, as close as you can. You don't have to be perfect, because there is a little bit of wiggle room side to side. We're only talking about millimeters, so let me just get a better position. So I've used a little pair of vice grips. I've aligned the hole with my center, and vice grips is just to hold it in place so you can have a little look into the hole just to make sure that you're within your center. It's hard to get that in video, but with a little bit of light you can see right through and see the center line, so we're not too far off. I'm happy to proceed. To carry on doing this, get another pair of vice grips on this side and on this side. Right, so as you can see, I've got additional clamps on. Just remember, when you're putting the vice grips on, you don't need to squeeze too hard. It just needs to get the two faces to fit snugly so that it doesn't move around on you. So with the seal, it has got a little edge that hooks around. Unfortunately, due to the way that these are cut, it generally doesn't line up at the end, so don't worry too much about that. We're just using this point to pre-drill our holes. So next step is a drill and a 3.2 drill bit. So I've turned it upside down. Just make sure before you start drilling that the seal is over the edge and kind of uniform all the way down. As you see with the compound radius here, this will pull in, but there's nothing you can do about this height. It's just the shape of it. So get your drill, 3.2mm drill bit. Whenever I do this, so from your center point, which is here, use one hand to pull the seal down and then the other just to drill right through. So next step. So that's the first hole drilled, center point. We don't need to rivet or secure this yet because the pivot bar itself needs to go in afterwards. So the reinforcement bar needs to go in afterwards, which slots down in behind. I just pre-drill the holes. It is only plastic, so they don't have to be 100% accurate. As we go to offer this bar in here, we may need to pre-drill or elongate some holes afterwards, but don't worry about that because it sandwiches between the seal and the metal plate. So I'm going to carry on drilling the other 12 holes out in preparation for the next step. So that's all the holes drilled. We now need to take off all our clamps. Won't need them anymore, hopefully. Clamps is off. Seal, just remove the debris, the ABS that's been drilled. So one thing to be careful of when you do drill, I have nicked this one, so just be careful how far you let the drill go through. Just clean the faces of any debris as you go across, and then we don't need our tape anymore, so just remove the tape. So next up, we need the little reinforcement bar for the seal. Set it down in, and then just centralize them. So from earlier, our center hole here, just make sure, let me see if I can get it, that these 2 points line up. So that's there or thereabouts. Don't worry about holding it in place at the moment. Get the seal, make sure there's no debris, because we're going to rivet these together very shortly. So seal in the right orientation, offer it up, and then center these 2 points. So I'll put a rivet through the seal and through the little reinforcement bar. Next, I'm going to rivet this on, just to squeeze that together, and then I'll hold it in place to prevent that. So that's the first rivet in. I am using a battery rivet gun. This one was about 60 quid off eBay. Ham ones are alright, but your knuckles will forgive you. So just make sure as you go along, when you are riveting it, this edge actually sits flush on the parcel shelf, and just carry on that as you go across. So go from the middle out, So that's one side done. Starting from the middle, working the way out, and then it's keeping a nice uniform seal and gap the whole way along the edge. No gaps, and it's pulled in quite nicely. As I said, you still have the little lip here, but there's nothing you can do about that, so don't worry about that. Now to repeat this process on the other side. So there we go, that's the reinforcement bar and the seal fitted in place. Got a nice even gap the whole way along. Let's see what the top looks like. So there's the fitment from the top side. Got a nice little seal all the way to here. Underpin there, but don't worry about that, that's an easy fix. But the rest of it is quite nice. So to fix this, just literally finger peel it back. If you can't do that, just use a credit card and slide it all the way along the edge, but not too shabby. So next up is the mats. Believe it or not, there's no point doing the pivot holes, because if you try and measure that off the old one, these are slightly oversized compared to the original one, so the holes which are here won't line up. Not only that, the carpets I find tend to shrink a little bit over time,